Hello, stream. Hello, everybody. Hey. 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 Your lipstick stains on the photo of my left sideburns. I knew I wouldn't forget you, and so I led you there, and I lost my mind. Hey, soul sister. Hey, dumb. I swear there was a been. Hey. Hey, hey. Hey. So guys, we're going to be reacting to Nuke's Top 5. 5 scary ghost videos that will creep you out. Make sure to go subscribe to him. This link is in my description. I'll check now if it is. Yeah, Nuke's Top 5 in my description. Right.
Top 5 ghosts caught on camera. The Stowaway. YouTuber Chad Morin and his team from the YouTube channel Ghost Hunt Weekend host monthly group tours of haunted places and upload them to YouTube. On this paranormal investigation of the Titanic Museum in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, they are accompanied by Jacob from the travel channel The Carpetbagger. Now, the Titanic Museum is built like a replica, half scale, of the original Titanic ship. Employees believe the giant museum to be haunted by many of the spirits of the 1,496 people who tragically lost their lives on board the Titanic in 1912. Because, you see, the museum houses around 400 real items found either in the wreckage of the Titanic or actually found on the victims' bodies.
This is Mr. Isidore Strauss's ring. It's a wedding ring that was recovered from the dead body.
When the group reaches the outer area that is meant to represent the outside deck of the Titanic, both Chad from Ghost Hunt Weekends and Jacob from The Carpetbagger capture something very strange on camera at the exact same time.
I'll even go backwards. When I get to 1, can you make that one go off? 3, 2, 1. Whoa.
Yeah, that's so weird. Hey, what's that screaming?
Is that screaming?
Yeah, did you hear that?
Screaming.
Dude, we just heard screaming.
I'll even go backwards. When I get to 1, can you make that one go off?
And it's moving.
3, 2, 1.
Whoa. And this one here. Hey, what's that screaming?
Is that screaming?
Yeah, did you
Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. I am not fucking with that shit, bro. Oh, hell to the no. Not me. Not me. What the fuck was that screaming? I was like, ah! Man up, man up, man up. Hopefully my camera's gonna be right. I do that. Actually, why don't I have that up there? Like this. And then how did display capture rate like different to me? I could like move that. No, it's on there. And then have the camera like go over here. Like that. I could put it down a bit more as well. Right. No, this doesn't look right by there. Let's see how it looks.
Screaming.
Dude, we just heard screaming.
Besides getting a direct response on the REM pod sitting on the deck of the museum, they hear an unexplained scream coming from somewhere in the area. Now, the scream is certainly creepy. Besides,
I want to turn on. Oh shit, there's my email. Yo, 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 yo. My email, bruh. How do I get dark mode? Okay, so next top 5. What have we got for us to do? Betty boy. Oh shit.
If you want to sell online, make sure you stand out. Go to Wix e-commerce and create a professional online store that will grab shoppers' attention.
To Titanic the scale to their lot or actual order errands and Jake
I want to see how that looks, guys.
Titanic the scale to their lot or actual order errands and Jake.
How the devil are you, mate? Guys, my camera's literally ready. Ready! Oh, fucking hell, no. No. There we go. Right. Innovation. There we go. Let's do that. Oh!
We're gonna try and film some stuff.
Alright, I'll let you go then.
No, it's fine. Just bring the phone and come.
Well, you and Llewellyn. You alright? You done a reaction video?
No, we're gonna be doing
Outside?
not outside. Not outside.
Oh. By the way, that's Ducky. His channel link is in my description. What the? What are you doing?
Right, look how dark it is over here,
Yeah,
Look how dark it is. Right, yeah?
yeah.
That's fucking hell. Right, that where you're looking at right now is really dark to us.
It looks really light.
Well, it's fucking not. Well, I can't fucking see where we're going. Use my mini camera to fucking look where we're going.
Keep walking. Keep walking. By the way, guys, that's Ducky's Everything. If you guys want to go check out his channel, it's in the link in the description.
It's that
Oh.
way. Fuck's sake. Blue. What's that? Fuck.
Yep, that's Ducky's Everything, guys. That's Ducky's Everything. Fucking
Are you
joke.
streaming still?
Yep.
Well, now we look dark.
Oh, 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 no, 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 no. No, 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 no. Yeah, guys, that's my side profile. I'm ugly. But no, we're gonna have like a streaming camera at the back of the front.
So where's the tunnel? It's further up, isn't it?
A tunnel!
Yeah, there's a fucking small dark tunnel where more stuff has been laid out. I'm gonna try and show you now.
A haunted tunnel.
Tunnel. Fucking. Look down here. I don't know if you can see. But it's down there.
Oh god.
It's fucking footsteps down there.
Oh no, I need to go back to Torah.
We've been doing necrophoric sessions, everything.
Why, now you're gonna post it on YouTube?
I done a ghost tube video as well, but we got no words but fucking creep blazes.
I'll be right back because I need to go pop back to the... back, guys. This was our profile. We could. That looks good, doesn't it? Nah. Sorry, guys. Who's up here on the line? Most likely. Oh, yeah. My fucking heart. Oh, it's back again, that's funny. So guys, have you guys seen this video before? You ever seen this video before? Alright, since everyone wants me to react to it, so much, here we go. That's not fair though. The volume. What about the volume? It's not playing. What about the volume? Sorry guys, it's not playing. What about the volume? Sorry guys, it's not playing. What about the volume? Cheers, Oko, for letting me know.
You're really not good at fighting, are you? No one bullies Loco but me, and MCS, and Cole. Basically anyone actually, except you, good.
Someone let me know in the comment section if you can hear it now. Please.
May I have the honor of getting you that?
No. My pardon.
Two amulets are better than one.
Then is that true? Let's kick his ass.
Yeah! Kick his ass. Beat him up.
all for the fun.
K thanks. Where's Diablo?
Where he should be.
Okay, thanks.
Shall we?
Yay!
So about that we only win 4 thing, I think this...
This is one of them. We will never do it again.
the plan failed.
We have to trust them. We owe to those assholes anymore. No. Jesse, Ken.
We were always going to lose. Everything we've done was planned out by this dude with the freaky vibrating face. We failed.
We must try. Even if there's a 1% chance of success. We need to take it as an absolute certainty.
Stop quoting Batman.
Sorry, but we did hurt him. But
Well, I suppose going out with a badass slow motion fight would be the worst thing.
let's do this.
He's dead. Fuck off, Dylan.
Science. Ow.
I think I need some tea.
No.
You find the others, Jack is mine.
What the hell happened to you?
He wanted a piece of me.
You wanted a piece of me.
Seems as if you got a piece of him.
God.
Why are you laughing? You just, like, murdered a bunch of people.
What? You want a piece of that?
I love Loco's character. He's so funny.
No. This is impossible.
By the way, local, I bloody love your character. He's funny as hell. And also love Dylan. Oh. What, you want a piece of this?
No. This cannot happen. This cannot happen. No.
Thanks. Bro.
Hey, dude.
Yes! Goals and feeling stagnant. So it's real cold. Oh no. Damn textures. Oh shit. Cool.
All that you've done, all that you've taken, I should end you right here.
Fine. Do it. You know what will happen if you can. You will lose everything. That's not something you recognize. But to be fair, if you did kill me, I can see you just here. You remember what happened. You were powerless to stop me and say, no, she's dead because you were weak. From my point of view, it almost seems as if you killed her.
No. No.
It's time for the tournament.
He killed Ghoul. No, please tell me you're alive, please.
I have been in control for centuries.
No.
How? I thought everything. Your thoughts and senses went down when you went after the glitch. Impossible. Such a foolish decision for someone as smart as you were. If you had stayed to battle the trap, you would never have been able to travel towards like the second generator. What the hell do you want? Why did you kill them? You didn't have to kill them.
God damn, MCS is acting, bro.
It's fine.
It's fucking amazing.
Your cavalry would have arrived. You were so incredibly close to winning. Enjoy life.
Yo, I'm sorry guys, about to pause that minute. Yo, guys, this is amazing. What if I put my camera down here? What will happen? Let me check.
NCS.
You got double chin.
You will suffer as well. You think I didn't think about that? My abilities, my potential, it's far beyond what you can ever imagine. I have my escape plan.
Uh-oh, can't see you. Yeah, no. So look, and everyone are dead.
And that is my truth to you. Forever. You puppet. I no longer need his skills. I got what I want. Traitor. No. How is this possible? I told you I'd do anything.
We talk down like that. Doomsday. SBB over, but the story is far from completion. Go, baby. World's unknown. Season 1, let's go. Coming soon. Oh, dude. Holy shit. Oh my fucking god. Oh my god. That episode was fucking phenomenal. Guys, that episode was... It was amazing. That episode was way too good. Holy shit. What the literal chills for some reason. Oh my god. Legit chills. Such a good way to end SBS. Dude, that was amazing. That was amazing. Guys, by the way, his link is right there, well, our link is right there in the channel. But bro, I'm over this guy.
Today, I'm gonna
yeah, I'll watch this guy. Don't be scared. Copy. What's his name? Mr. Baldwin, innit? Mr. Baldwin. I've seen this guy on TikTok.
share 3 stories that scared me. But before we get into those stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right.
By the way, guys, make sure to go subscribe and click his notification bell to become part of his
channel, because that's all we do, and we upload 3 or 4 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, please kidnap the like button, tie them up, and then forcibly brush their teeth, and then make them drink orange juice afterwards. Also, please subscribe to our channel and forcibly brush week. So if that's of interest to you, please kidnap the like button, tie them up, and then forcibly brush their teeth, and then make them drink orange juice afterwards. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Alright, let's get into today's stories.
Let's go, I'm excited. Let's go.
In 2010, Kayla was a senior at the University of California, Santa Barbara, a big party school. And one Friday evening, Kayla and her friends were at a big party, and Kayla was having a great time, but she was starting to feel really tired. And so she asked her friends if maybe they wanted to leave early, but none of them did. And so Kayla left on her own. Luckily, her house was just down the road, and
not a good idea. You always leave with someone, or you always have to have 2 people with one person. Not a good idea to go by yourself. Because what if someone tries to sexually assault you or something? That's what it's like in these worlds.
And so she was at her front door in a matter of minutes. That night, her 2 roommates, who were also college seniors, had decided to stay in and just have a nice night with a couple of friends having some wine. And so when Kayla walked inside, she happened to turn to the right, and she looked on the closest wall where there was a sofa, and she saw there was a guy laying there with a blanket up to his chin, and his eyes were wide open. She didn't recognize him, but he was staring at her, and she figured, oh, he must be a friend of her roommates. But as she walked across the room, she kind of glanced back at him, and he had pulled the covers down slightly, and he had lifted his head up, and he was staring at her kind of menacingly. And so Kayla got a really bad vibe from this guy.
Yeah,
just
filthy bastard. He was staring at her ass, probably, you dirty muffin. You filthy bastard. Ah, you filthy bastard. He was staring at the fucking arsehole. Oh, there we go.
Hustled into her room, shut the door behind her, and locked it, something she never did. And a few minutes later, she was in her bed and she was passed out. A couple of hours later, she woke up to what sounded like tapping on wood. And so she sat up in her bed and she's kind of looking around. She had a couple drinks the night before and she's half asleep, so she's a bit disoriented. But finally, when she gets her bearings, she realizes this tapping sound is the sound of someone drumming their fingers on the outside of her door. And so she's looking at her door, wondering who would be doing that. And then all of a sudden, the drumming stops, and it's replaced by the sound of this person scratching on the outside of the door. And so now Kayla's thinking, okay, you know, is this guy who was out on that couch, is he playing a joke on me? And so she's sitting there wondering if she should just go over there and open the door and tell him to stop. But before she gets out of her bed, the scratching gets louder and louder and louder until it's so loud that it's kind of menacing. And so Kayla decides she's not going to go out there. And so instead, she pulls out her phone and she texts her roommate and says, hey, can you please come out in the living room and take care of your friend who's harassing me? But she doesn't get a response from that roommate, and the scratching is just still loud as ever. And so she texts her other roommate the same message, come out and take care of your buddy here. But again, she doesn't get a response. And now the scratching on the door has stopped, and it's been replaced by jiggling of her doorknob. And so now Kayla is just
What is
mad
he trying
because
to
this is
say
obviously
for?
a prank, and it's a dumb prank. And so she yells out, hey, stop! But it doesn't do anything. And so now Kayla's like, okay, I gotta call my roommates, wake them up, they'll come out and they'll handle it. And so she calls one of her roommates, and they do pick up this time. And Kayla angrily tells them, hey, come out into the living room and tell your friend to knock it off. He's totally harassing me. And her roommate was confused. She's trying to make sense of what Kayla's saying, and she says, Kayla, you know, what are you talking about? What friend are you talking about? And Kayla says, the guy sleeping on the couch, the guy in our living room sleeping on the couch. And her roommate said, Kayla, we didn't have anybody over last night. Is somebody out there? You need to call the police. Kayla's adrenaline surged, and she very calmly told her roommate, lock your door immediately. And right then she noticed the jiggling of her doorknob and the scratching, and it all stopped. And Kayla's wondering, you know, where did this guy go? And then after a couple of seconds, she heard extremely loud banging coming from across the house where her two roommates shared a room. And it was the sound of this guy trying to smash down their door. And so Kayla's screaming, her roommates are screaming. Kayla manages to dial up 911, and before long there are sirens outside, and Kayla...
Yo, I don't like that at all. That's just really fucking creepy. But this guy's videos, it's all. I need to get perfect, guys. I'm literally looking down on my phone and trying to like move it. Right. If I go back. No, because that still looks like.
Kayla hears the sound of this guy run across the house, and she hears the sliding door open and shut. Police come inside, they search the property, and there's no sign of this guy, and so Kayla and the roommates come outside. They talk to the police, and the police bring them over to their side door, and they show them on the outside there was all sorts of scratch marks all over the doorknob and right around the latch. And they said it looks like he was able to jimmy his way into your house through this door. And so then they asked the girls to give their statement about what happened, and they started with Kayla. They went over to her bedroom door so she could demonstrate what happened, and that's when they noticed there were all these scratch marks and gouge marks all over the outside of her bedroom door, and all over the doorknob, and all over the latch. And on the ground was a pair of scissors and a knife. And the police told Kayla that it looks like he used those scissors and that knife to open up the side door, and he was trying to use those tools again to open up her door, but for whatever reason, he just couldn't do it. They told Kayla that most likely when she went in the front door, she caught this guy off guard. Maybe he was trying to rob the place, maybe he had just broken in, but either way, Kayla got in and ruined his plans. And so he leapt onto that sofa, the one against that inner wall, to kind of tuck himself away in hopes that maybe Kayla wouldn't look over and see him. And they told her that most likely when she made eye contact with him, she became a witness and therefore a target of opportunity. And had she not locked...
If I move this over here, right? When I move my camera, like, oh, I could do that. Why did nothing go on in the fucking first place, yo? Haha! Cheezos. I like Cheezos. What if I do these? No, because I don't look bad like me. I need to find the best sport. I need to find the best sport. I need to find the best sport. Do you think you can, Mr. Hitman? Ow! It's June! So, if I have my camera over here, right? How do I get the perfect angle? Do I put it on there? Do I put it on there? Do I put it over here? Right, hang on. Hang on, dudes. Dudes and dudettes. Dudes. No. Just doesn't look normal, does it? What if I put it on like the oh my god, no. What if I just keep it straight? Dudes! There we go. I think we finally got it. No, because that just doesn't look right. Oh my god, dude. Fucking Ricky, stupid twat. Hey, look at those two hands. There.
Her door, who knows what.
If you work in a team, you've got to try Monday.com. Go to Monday.com and manage all your team's work on a
would have happened. In 2004, 16-year-old Misty Tasker was a typical American teenager living in Live Oak, Florida, which is a small rural town right in the middle of the state. One Saturday evening in January, she and her mother attended a church service. Afterwards, they hopped in her mother's truck and they got on the country highway and began making their way home. Their house was just 20 minutes down this highway. It was a straight shot. And this highway was pretty desolate. There were no street lights. It was actually a dirt road despite being a highway. And it was just thick forest on both sides of the road the entire way. There were no buildings or houses between the church and their neighborhood. Misty's mother was already a very anxious driver who would keep both hands on the wheel. She would sit up and kind of hunch over the wheel and keep her eyes intently focused on the road. But at night, her driving anxiety would shoot through the roof because she had really bad eyesight. And so she would go to great lengths to not drive at night to avoid that high level of anxiety. But the church service they had just come from had run a little bit long, and so now Misty's mother is driving with the sun starting to set, and she's going as fast as she can to try to get home before it gets too dark. And so as they're bombing down this road at about 55 miles an hour, despite it being about a 40 mile per hour zone, Misty, who's in the passenger passenger seat just happens to look over at her mother for no particular reason. And as she's looking at her, she notices out her mother's window, it looks like there's a little girl sitting on the side of the road. What's a child doing out here in the middle of nowhere? She says to her mom, I think I just saw a little girl. And Misty's mother, who's high up on the wheel, she did not hear Misty the first time. She's just focused on driving and trying to get home. And so Misty says again, I think I just saw a little girl. We need to go back. I don't know what she's doing, but I feel like we need to go back and make sure she's okay. And so Misty's mom looks over at her and she's not prepared to turn the car around. That means staying out later, and it means she's gonna be driving in even darker conditions. And so she's like, did you really see someone? Because we gotta get home. And Misty's like, Mom, I'm pretty sure I saw.
Right, I've got a few things to say about this. I know people have anxiety, but if you drive a car, you need to, what's it called? If you drive a car, you have to prepare for those situations. But, like, don't, like, if you can't drive at night, then you shouldn't be driving. I'm sorry. If you can't drive at night, then you should not be driving a car at all. I know your mum has anxiety and everything, which is bad, but I don't think she should be driving a car if she can't drive at night. Because in most situations, you have to drive at night.
Saw a little girl. We have to go back.
Or you put your 4 beamers on. Don't drive with no fucking lights on, like.
And so finally, Misty's mother, she's very annoyed, but she stops the car, she does a 3-point turn, and she begins driving back up the road where they came from towards this girl. Now, they had only made it about a half mile from where Misty believed she had seen this girl. And so pretty quickly, they slowed down because Misty said, I think she's in this area, and they both began scanning the right side of the road because that's where she's going to be now that they've turned around. Now, it was starting to get very dark outside, but there was enough light, and they had headlights. They were pretty confident they'd be able to spot this girl. And so as they're slow rolling down the road, they both see this girl a little ways up on the right-hand side. Her back was to the road. She had her knees tucked up to her chest, and she was rocking back and forth. Misty's mother made a...
Run her over. Hell nah. I'll be like, bitch, I'm gone. Motherfucker, I'm gone. By the way, shout out to Casper Side for that. Oh no.
Comment that it was a little bit surprising that this girl was out here. I mean, there's really nothing around here. There's no houses, there's no buildings, there's no trails to be walking in this forest on either side. It was just kind of thick forest. And so she just thought it was very strange that this girl would even be out here, especially because there's not any traffic on this road. And so Misty's mother began slowly rolling up to her, and she told her daughter that instead of just stopping right away, let's just drive past her and get a look at her, and then we'll turn around and see if she needs any help. And so as they got right up next to her, they realized she was not a little girl. She was a young teenager, but she was not a young child. And as they drove right past her, they would expect her to turn around and acknowledge the car creeping up on her, considering there's no other traffic in the area and you're just some person sitting on the side of the road. You should definitely turn around and see what's behind you. But the girl did not acknowledge them. She just continued to have her knees up to her chest and rocked back and forth. And so Misty and her...
By the way, guys, also follow this guy on TikTok. He is, he tells stuff spot on. I love him.
Mother are a little bit freaked out by this, but they drive past her about 50 meters. Misty's mother does a 3-point turn, and when they're looking back down the road where the girl should now be on their left-hand side, they're oriented back towards their house now, she wasn't there anymore. But there were no street lights. It was now almost completely pitch dark outside, and so all they had was the headlights. Child. And so Misty told her mom, drive up a little ways. Maybe the girl stood up and moved, and we just can't see her because she's not in the headlights. And so Misty's mom began driving down the road and kind of turning slightly towards the left to shine the light more to the left.
She's a
but
ghost.
There was no
She's
sign of this girl.
She's a ghost.
For good measure, they turned right slightly to shine the lights more to the right-hand side of the road, but there was no sign of this girl. And so Misty and her mother just slow rolled back down the road, kind of keeping their eye out on both sides. But after traveling for several minutes, going about 5-10 miles an hour, and seeing no sign of this girl, they decided that, well, she must have just gone back into the woods and gone back to wherever it was she came from. And so Misty's mom began picking up speed, and before...
What's the odds of you being in the back seat? Nice, you know, I said that because I shit myself if there is.
Long. They had gone maybe 2 or 3 miles away from where they'd seen this girl, and they were coming up to this 4-way intersection with stop signs all around. And as they were getting close, Misty's mother gasped because on the other side of the intersection, on the right-hand side, was this girl sitting on the side of the road. She's got her back to the road, her knees are up, and she's rocking back and forth. And so Misty's mother pulls up the stop sign and then just sits there. And both women are just stunned at what they're looking at. They had just seen her 2-3 miles back down the road. It wasn't possible for her to get all the way up here. And so Misty's mother looks at her daughter and says, you know, do you think it's a different girl? And Misty's like, no, that's the same girl. And so they just sat there for a minute until Misty started to panic. And she said to her mom, Mom, don't stop. I got a bad feeling about this girl. I don't know what's going on, but you can't stop.
I knew it. I knew it. Oh yeah, by the way, guys, whenever I chew my nails when I'm watching something scary, it's because I'm nervous. Because see, I don't have any nails.
Next to this girl. But Misty's mom, she was definitely weirded out by this situation, no doubt. But she didn't feel good about abandoning this girl in the middle of the night on the side of the highway. And so even though she felt a little bit hesitant herself, she told Misty, you know, we have to at least drive past her and ask if she's okay. That's the least we can do. And Misty was not having it. She said, Mom, do not stop. I got a bad feeling about this. Don't stop near this girl. But Misty's mom let up off the brake and began slow rolling past this intersection. And now at this point, Misty is just absolutely terrified. And so she takes her seatbelt off and she goes down into the footwell right in front of her seat. And she closes her eyes and covers her ears, and she just continues to beg her mother to just please keep going. Don't stop. But her mother just continues on until she stops right next to this girl who's still just sitting on the side of the road with her back to the road.
Dude.
She's got her knees up. She's rocking back and forth. She's not acknowledging Misty or her mother. And so Misty's mother turns to her daughter and says, please roll down your window. And Misty refuses. She's still down in the footwell, still in the fetal position. She's crying and she's still begging her mother to please just go home. And so Misty's mother, frustrated, reaches across the passenger seat and grabs the knob to roll down the window manually. So she rolls the window down, and Misty, who's down in the footwell, all she remembers is sitting there covering up her ears, and she's crying, and she opens her eyes and she's looking up towards her mom, who's reaching over the seat, and her mom yells out to this girl. And Misty remembers looking at her mom, who suddenly recoils in horror and screams, and then they take off like crazy, flying down the road.
Dude.
Misty jumps out of the footwell, and she's looking at her mom, and she's like, what's happening? What just happened? What did you see? And her mom's got her hand over her mouth, and she's speeding down the road, and she's crying now, and she's looking at Misty, and she just doesn't have the words to describe what she just saw. And so Misty's asking her mom, what did you see? What happened? And finally, her mother just said, she didn't have a face. She didn't have a face. It was hollow. There was nothing on her face when she looked at me. And so Misty screams and she's crying and her mom is crying, and they speed home. They're home just a couple of minutes later, and they run inside, practically falling over each other to get in the house. And as soon as they get inside, Misty's mom calls 911, and she didn't even know how to describe what she just saw. But she knew it was too embarrassing to try to describe it as some girl without a face sitting by the highway. And so she just told the police that they had seen a girl they think needs help. And so the police, they went out and they searched that entire stretch of highway. They looked for any sign of anybody out there, but there wasn't. There was never any trace of that.
The road is full of inspiration.
I knew it.
It just depends on how you spend it. You can get
that girl.
Yo guys, let me know what you think about this in the comment section, please. Just let me know. Before we get on to the next one, make sure to hit that subscribe button and also like and comment. I won't be coming back on tonight, boys, because I'm too tired. Okay. Yeah guys, if you do like this channel, do like KK what? Do you want? If you do like what you're watching now guys, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, because I am oh hell nah. Oh hell to the nah. So yeah guys, make sure to hit that subscribe button down there. If it's still red, make it in grey. And also if that like button has a black outline, make sure to give that a click to make it go black, and also with that notification bell.
In 2016, a 25-year-old Wall Street banker named Matt was camping near Mount Rainier in Washington state. His job was so hectic that in the rare times he got a chance to, he would disappear into the wilderness for a few days to clear his head. Despite living in one of the biggest cities in the world, Matt was actually a very competent outdoorsman, and so for this trip, he decided he would stay way off any trail deep in the backcountry in random locations. On the first night, he found a nice clearing in the trees, and so he set up his campsite there. He ate some food over his fire, he pitched his...
So this starts off
tent, climbed inside, and within a few minutes he was fast asleep. Several hours later, Matt woke up to some strange sounds coming from outside of his tent. It sounded like a couple of animals or maybe one animal moving around right outside. And so after a while of just hearing this constant sound, he rolled over and he barely unzipped his tent flap just to look out and see if he could see whatever animal it was. And what he saw shocked him. There was a man sitting in front of his fire pit. There was no fire in his fire pit. And the guy was just sitting there with his hands on his knees, looking straight down, and periodically he would just kick his feet in the ashes of the fire pit. And Matt didn't even know what to do, so he's just looking at him through this little tiny gap in his tent. And this man all of a sudden looks up directly at Matt and makes eye contact with him. And the guy's eyes go wide, and he stands up, turns around, and runs away from Matt's campsite. Matt has no idea how to react to this, and so he just quickly unzips his tent, jumps outside, and shines his light into the forest looking for this guy. He's thinking to himself, who is this guy? I am in the middle of nowhere in the backcountry of Washington state. How long was he sitting outside there for? What does he want? And so as Matt is trying to make sense of this totally weird thing, he's thinking, okay, I'm gonna look out and I'm gonna see his flashlight somewhere, or I'm gonna see his campsite. You know, maybe he's set up nearby, and he's looking around into the total darkness. He's looking through all the trees, any light source anywhere out there he would see. And there's not one. There's no fire, there's no flashlight. There is nothing. And so eventually Matt goes back inside of his tent, he zips it up, and he's just left kind of dumbfounded. He can't understand how some person was just sitting outside of his tent for no apparent reason and then vanished into the forest without even turning on a flashlight. And so after a very restless night, finally
What's the title? Scary, top 3 scariest true stories. So that last story was real. The one with the girl with no face.
Sun came up again, and Matt was very relieved. He stepped outside, and after a little bit of time now from this strange incident, Matt started to tell himself that all that was is some guy happened to set up his campsite nearby. It is possible, albeit rare, because we're in the backcountry, and maybe he was just intoxicated and he wandered over here, and, you know, stranger things have happened, so that's probably all it was. And so Matt felt like there was nothing to worry about. He packed up his campsite and he began hiking into the forest. Matt didn't have a planned route. Instead, he had a map and a compass, and he began just kind of wandering in the forest, kind of exploring wherever he wanted to go. And over the next 2 days, he covered at least 10, maybe 15 miles in kind of random zigzag directions. He found a nice clearing.
What's the other that guy returning?
And he set up another campsite. That night, he set up a fire, and he was eating some food near his fire. And then as he's sitting there, he hears rustling coming from behind him. And he's pretty sure it's an animal, so he turns around, and he doesn't see anything. And he goes back to eating his food. And then a little while later, he hears some more rustling behind him. And this time, he can't really just write it off. Clearly, there is something behind him that's moving around. And so he stood up, turned around, and remained motionless, and just listened, expecting to see maybe a deer come out of the woods. But instead, he hears a man's voice come out of the darkness that says,
Do you know how to get to Bell's Canyon?
And Matt's heart starts racing. He knows that even though he can't see him, it has to be the same guy he saw 2 days ago. Because they are in the middle of nowhere. He hasn't seen any other hikers or campers or anyone, and clearly this guy has the ability to sneak up on him. And so he's thinking, what does this guy want? I just spent the past 2 days hiking in random directions for 15 miles, and he must have followed me. And so Matt, not knowing what else to do, just says, I don't know where Bell's Canyon is. And then there's silence. And Matt, one part of him is thinking, I hope this guy does not come into the light. I hope he just goes away. The other part of him is thinking, well, maybe this is a different person that is lost, and they're looking for this place called Bell's Canyon, and they'll come into the light, it'll be a big relief, I'll send them on their merry way, and everything will be fine. But as Matt is having this wishful thinking, the voice from the shadows does not come any closer, but instead asks the same question, a bit more forcefully this time.
Do you know how to get to Bell's Canyon?
This time, Matt did not respond. Now he was scared. This is not some friendly hiker looking for directions. There's something wrong. And so Matt, knowing he's all alone out here, he knew he had to do something to try to take control of this situation. And so he took a deep breath, he reached down and grabbed his flashlight, and in one swift motion, he lifted his light up and shined it in the direction of this guy's voice. And what he saw was this guy from 2 days ago looking out from behind a tree right in Matt's direction. He was hiding from him. And when the light hit him, the man barked at Matt to aim it away. And Matt kind of instinctively lowered his light, but now he was too scared to raise it again, and now he knows it's the same guy. This guy has been following me for 2 days. And so for several minutes, Matt just stood there absolutely terrified, and this guy, he just stayed out there. Matt didn't hear him move. It was just a complete standstill. And then the silence was broken yet again by this voice, except somehow he had moved even closer to Matt. And when he came through asking the same question,
do you know how to get to Bell's Canyon?
His voice was so close to Matt that Matt got scared and raised his light up, and the man was standing just a few feet away from him. And this time, the man's eyes got wide like they did the first time they saw Matt, and he turned around and he ran into the forest again. Matt, not knowing any better, just began running after him, but he only ran for about 30 seconds before he realized the terrain out here is so rough. He's gonna fall, get hurt, he's gonna get lost, and this guy's already long gone. He somehow managed to run immediately so far away, and so Matt just goes back to his campsite, and he's thinking to himself, what do I do? I have no cell phone service. I'm at least 3 days away from my car, and I'm in the middle of nowhere. No one even knows where I am because I didn't chart a course. I didn't tell anyone where I was going to be. And so Matt just grabbed his knife and stood in the middle of the campsite, and for hours and hours he just kept looking around, expecting this guy to just show up again or start speaking to him from somewhere out in the darkness. It was absolutely horrifying. Finally, by about 3 in the morning, Matt was so tired that he had to go to sleep. He hadn't heard this guy again, he didn't see him again, and he figured, I need a little bit of sleep because tomorrow he's gonna pack up his campsite and begin this epic journey back to his car. And so he climbed in his tent and he had a very restless next couple of hours.
Yo, that's fucking scary, man. By the way, thank you to MCS with Recall and to Local Darkness, guys. Those two are my moderators. They're here every single stream. They help me record, they help me give me video ideas. MCS suggested Science vs. Scientist. But yeah, I just want to take this time to thank those legends for being a part of my channel.
Hours, and the sun came up. Matt jumped out of his tent, packed up his stuff, and began practically running in the direction of his car. All day as he was hiking, Matt kept looking over his shoulder, expecting to see this guy, because clearly he had followed him for multiple days, over 15 miles, and so the likelihood that he's still following him was really high. And so all day, Matt just felt like he was being watched, he was totally terrified, and then the sun started to go down, and Matt knew he would have to camp out again. And so he found a clearing in the trees, he set up his campsite, and he was so tired from running basically all day and being so mentally exhausted from this experience that he just got in his tent and fell asleep very quickly. But several hours later, he woke up to the sound of somebody walking around his tent. And he knew it had to be this guy. He's still in the middle of nowhere. He's not even close to the parking lot yet. And so this guy is still following him. And so Matt sat up in his tent, he clutched his knife, and for hours and hours and hours, all night, this guy just walked around his campsite. And then around 4 or 5 in the morning, he scampered off. When the sun finally came up, Matt leapt out of his tent, packed up his stuff, and literally just began running in the direction of his car, hoping that maybe he could get there before needing to camp out one more night. And so all day as he moved, he's looking over his shoulder, knowing this guy is following him. At this point, it's not even a question. He's somewhere in the forest, but he could never see him. And unfortunately, as the sun was setting, he knew he was not going to be able to make it to his car. He was just too far away. And so at some point, when it got too dark to keep moving, he had to find a clearing and set up his tent again. And so once his tent was set up, he just climbed inside, grabbed his knife, and sat there, knowing this guy was somewhere out there. And so Matt climbed inside of his tent, he zipped it up behind him, he grabbed his knife, and he sat there, expecting to hear this guy come walking around. But after several hours, he didn't hear him. And Matt started to wonder, maybe this guy has left me alone, finally. Maybe he's not following me anymore. And so Matt, who was totally exhausted, laid down to go to sleep. And then, as he's laying there from somewhere out in the woods,
do you know how to get to Bell's Canyon?
Matt immediately sat up. His heart began racing so fast that he actually was concerned he might have a heart attack. And he didn't know what to do, he didn't know what to say, so he just sat there holding his knife. And then this guy began running past his campsite, making animal sounds, and he would stop periodically and moan and grunt, and he'd pick up leaves, and then he'd run past his campsite again, over and over and over again, until the sun finally came up and this guy scampered off back into the woods. Matt didn't waste any time. He leapt out of his tent, packed his stuff up, and ran all the way back to his car. When he finally got inside of his car, shut the door, and locked it, he cried tears of joy. He was so unbelievably relieved. And he peeled out of the parking lot, he got to a nearby hotel, he finally got cell phone reception, and he considered calling the police about this guy, but he thought, what am I going to tell them? He didn't commit a crime, he was just terrifying. And so he decided not to call the police. He finally flew back to New York, and he just had to accept that there was some strange guy out in the wilderness of Washington state who was able to hunt him over 3 days and 30 miles in rugged terrain without the use of a flashlight, without any gear, and all he ever said to Matt was,
do you know how to get to Bell's Canyon?
So that's gonna do it, guys. If you found the secret into the...
Holy fuck! Oh, if that happened to me, I would shit myself. Make sure to go subscribe to Mr. Bullen. Should we watch another one? Let's check his channel out. Yeah, it was Navy SEAL. I will do one more video, guys, and then I'm gonna end it. Hang on, let me get the phone link. we're gonna watch this one.
Today's theme is very simple, scary stories. But before I get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right channel, because that's all we do, and we upload 3, 4, even 5 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, please eat all of the like button's Oreos except for one and put it back in the pantry, and then also crumple all of their potato chips. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's stories. In 2010, an avid caver named Jeff decided to go to Madagascar to explore a natural cave shaft he had discovered years earlier. He arrived in country, he got a rental car, and he hired a guide to take him out to the area where he knew this cave was going to be. When he got out to that area, he used his notebook where he had taken notes the last time he was here, and he used that to find the opening to the cave. He paid the guide to stick around at the car while he went down and explored this cave. He assured him it was not going to be for a very long time. The shaft was approximately 50 meters deep and 1 meter across, so it's pretty narrow, and the first 20 meters of the descent are on a bit of an angle, and then the final 30 meters are down at a straight vertical drop. At the bottom of this cave was this opening where you could actually stand up and walk around, but there were no other tunnels to explore at the bottom, so you would just go down, touch the bottom, and go back up. The visibility inside of the shaft was limited because all you had was the light that was coming in, and because of how narrow the opening was, Jeff's body would obscure a lot of the sunlight coming in. So once Jeff got a few meters down into the tunnel, he would rely on his headlamp. So Jeff enters the cave and he makes his way down to the 20-meter mark. So that's where the tunnel goes from being on an angle to being straight. And he's about to make that final descent down that final 30 meters when he notices something out of the corner of his eye. And he focuses his light on the side of the shaft, and he sees thousands of black widow spiders trying to escape the light. They're scattering all over the walls.
No.
And he looks around him and he realizes from his position down on the vertical section of the shaft is covered in black widow spiders. As much as Jeff wanted to stop right there and go right back up to the surface, he couldn't. In order to go back up this line that he was rappelling down on, he needed technical gear, and his technical gear was packed in his backpack, and it would just be totally unsafe trying to fish it out of his bag. And so he would have to descend the final 30 meters to the bottom, then take his pack off, get the gear out, and go back up. So Jeff took a deep breath, and he began his slow, awful descent into this cave filled with spiders. Periodically, as he would bump into the wall, he'd hear them scatter all over the walls, and then he saw them climbing on his sleeves, and he'd have to brush them off his sleeves. He saw them on the rope. He's trying to brush them off. He finally gets to the bottom, and he can hear the spiders on the wall just crawling all over the place. He takes his bag off, and it's covered in spiders. He opens it up, spiders crawl out of his bag. He carefully reaches in and pulls out his technical gear. He throws it up and he begins making his way back up, and the whole time he's just brushing spiders off of him. Once he gets to the surface, the first thing he does is he strips all of his clothing off to get all the spiders off of his clothing. He takes his bag, dumps it out, more spiders are in there. After he finally brushes all the spiders off, he redresses and gets in the car. And you can only imagine what the guide was thinking as he's watching this guy, this foreigner, taking his clothes off after being in this cave. But luckily, he doesn't get bit. He gets in the car with the guide, and they start heading back towards the city. As they're driving, he takes his notebook out, and he scratches off the title he had given this cave from the last time he was here, which was the Crooked Tube. He scratches that out, and on top of it, he writes, "The Entrance to Hell." In 2006, a 14-year-old boy named Evan lived on a farm in North Carolina. This was not a typical farm with animals and crops. it was a pine tree harvestry. Pine needles are a big landscaping commodity, and Evan and his family made their living baling pine straw every year. As such, their main living house on the farm was situated right in the middle of 550 acres of perfectly lined up pine trees. They did not have any neighbors nearby, and there was only one road that led into the property, which from the main house they could look out and basically see through the rows of trees all the way to the beginning of this road, which meant any visitors were really easy to spot. The main house was built on a very slight hill, which meant one side of the house was effectively built on stilts to compensate for the angle. And on that side of the house, on the first floor, was the living room. So anyone who was in the living room looking out the window, they'd basically need to look at a downward angle to see the ground. It would actually seem like you were on the second floor, but really you're on the first floor. The window in the living room was very unique. It stretched almost the entire length of the room, so almost 50 feet across. And at night, you could see animals darting between the different trees because you could see down the rows. And so that was pretty creepy. And then just the fact that this window is so big, if you're in the living room at night, you just felt really exposed. So between the creepy animals running around and the level of exposure and vulnerability, people basically avoided the living room anytime they were in the house at night. That winter, Evan's cousin came to stay with him on his farm, and because the main house did not have any extra bedrooms, Evan and his cousin would have to sleep in the living room. There were two couches inside of the living room, one that was right underneath the 50-foot long window, and then another which was on the other side of the room against a wall that did not have a window. And so Evan would be sleeping on the couch right under the window, and his cousin would be sleeping on the other couch. The first night Evan's cousin was there, they put this big sheet up over the window, but it only blocked like 75% of the window. The two flanks of the window were still exposed, but where the couches were lined up, they were kind of blocked by this sheet, so it gave them a little bit of privacy. After goofing around for a while, the boys finally fell asleep around midnight, and then they woke up a couple hours later because they heard Evan's dogs barking way off in the pine trees. Now, Evan was used to his dogs running around the property.
Okay. So I think someone's breaking into the house
and barking at other smaller animals, and so just them barking was not necessarily a red flag. But the barking persisted to the point where Evan's cousin got up off the couch, moved across the room to the opening of the window that was not covered by the sheet at the foot of where Evan was sleeping. Now, Evan was still laying on the couch. He was not going to get up and look out the window, so he's looking down at his cousin, kind of looking at his face to get some sort of a read on what he's seeing. And he notices his cousin has this really perplexed look on his face, like he's squinting his eyes and trying to make sense of what he's looking at. And so Evan looks at him and says, "Hey, what's going on? What do you see?" And his cousin's like, "I don't know if my mind's playing tricks on me or not, but I'm pretty sure I see people out there." At this, Evan jumps off the couch and runs over and butts up right next to his cousin so he can look out the window too. And he's scanning out amongst the rows of trees because there's just a mile of pine trees. And the first thing he notices is the moon is very bright that night. So there's good illumination, and there was a light snow covering on the ground, which really added to the illumination. He's looking out maybe 100 meters when he sees someone's leg extend from behind one of the pine trees as if they're stepping into the space between a pine tree column. And he's staring at it, and he can't believe he's even seeing anyone walking around this area because he didn't see anybody come in on the road, and they have no neighbors. And so he's looking, and then a body follows the leg. A person walks from one row to the next. This tall, dark figure just walks calm as can be between the two pine trees. And Evan just grabs his cousin, and he's like, "Did you just see that?" And his cousin's like, "Yeah, I saw that." And so they continue to look in the direction of where this person crossed the path, and after a couple of minutes, they see another leg now emerging, going the other way, back towards where that first person had come from. So the leg kind of extends into this gap, and then this tall figure walks across into the next row, except now, instead of going just directly across, it looks like they're moving at an angle closer to the main house property. The boys look at each other and they don't know what to do, so they just keep looking out the window in stunned silence. And as they're looking, they see this person emerge again, except now they're not 100 meters away, they're like 20 meters away. They don't know how they were able to move that quickly without being seen. And this time when the leg comes out from behind the pine tree, instead of walking across the gap, it stops right in the middle, and it turns and looks directly at the boys in the window, and then begins running toward them. The boys practically fall over trying to get away from the window. Evan's yelling for his father upstairs, and the boys instinctively just start running around the house, locking every door, shutting every window. And as they're going from door to door, the anxiety is growing and growing because they think, if I don't get there fast enough, this person who was running towards the property is going to come barging through that door. And so at every door, their anxiety is through the roof, but they manage to shut everything. Everything is locked right as Evan's father comes charging down the stairs. He's got his gun in hand and he's like, what's going on? And they say, there's someone out in our property. Their dad charges out the front door. The front door is not on the same wall as the living room. It's on the side of the house. So once he goes outside, he's going to need to turn to the right to look out in the direction they were describing. He bombs outside, he stays on the porch, and he starts yelling at whoever's out there that if you come over here, I'm going to shoot you, get the F away from here. And then there's silence. And the boys are waiting, they're looking around, they're checking the window. They don't see anything. The dad comes back inside, he shut and locks the door, and he tells Evan, keep an eye out. If you see him again, you let me know. Evan would reflect on this experience later on and say, you know, we really should have called 911 at that point, but as a kid, I just understood that that's the way my family did business. We kind of took care of ourselves. And so even though there is a threat of some stranger who's running at our property, we were not going to call the cops. And so his dad effectively was telling him to be a lookout. And so Evan and his cousin, they go back into the living room and they kind of go up to the window. They're a little bit apprehensive and they're looking out. And after 5-10 minutes of looking out the window and not seeing anything, they're thinking to themselves, you know, Evan's dad's a pretty intimidating guy and he was just out there screaming and yelling with a gun, threatening to shoot them. So they probably got the message and they're probably gone. And so the boys got back into their couches, and it took them a while, but they did ultimately fall asleep. The next morning when the boys got up, the first thing they wanted to do was go out there and see if they could find footprints from this person to kind of confirm it really was a person, because part of them thought, you know, maybe we didn't see that. Maybe that was our imaginations. They don't know. And so they start by going out the front door, so not on the same wall as the living room. They go out the front door, they turn and they walk down into the trees, and they're looking around and they find some footprints. So they're confirming to themselves, okay, there was someone out here. It wasn't us. This is not our footprints. We found them. So they start following the footprints back towards the property, and they realize at some point there are two distinct sets of footprints. There were two people out here. And even worse is they followed them all the way up to the house. And there were two different circles of footprints that stopped right underneath the living room window along the two flanks of the window where the sheet was not covering. Which means over the course of the night, when Evan and his cousin were up at that window looking out, there's a good chance that one or two strangers were tucked up against the side of the house. And they would not have seen them because of the angle out of the living room window. It was steep because of the stilts it was on. And so anybody that was tucked up along the side, they'd be in a blind spot. And then for sure, after Evan and his cousin got back into bed and were sleeping, there were two strangers who were right up against those windows, probably pulling themselves up to look inside. When Evan's father found these footprints, he immediately grabbed his gun and tried to follow them back into the woods to see where they came from, but unfortunately the snow cover wasn't complete, and at some point they lost the tracks and they never figured out who those two people were. Evan would say, following this event, his cousin refused to ever come back over his house for a sleep. In October of 2005, a 21-year-old named Nathan was back home in Elk Grove, California, visiting his mother at her apartment for a couple of days. Her apartment was part of this really safe complex. It was gated, there's lots of lights and cameras, so anything that went bump in the night was just going to be, you know, your noisy neighbors or something. On the last night of Nathan's stay, he was laying in his bed in the guest room, listening to the hum of the street lamp that was outside, and the crickets and the passing by of cars, when he drifted off to sleep. At about 2 a.m., Nathan woke up, or so he thought. He couldn't move his body, he could only move his eyes, and even though he had never experienced sleep paralysis before, he instinctively understood this is probably that. He noticed the room was completely silent. There was no more crickets, no more hum of the light outside, no more traffic, just total silence. And then he started flashing his eyes around the room because he couldn't move his head or his body, and he started taking stock of the room. The bed he was in was positioned as far away from the door as he could in the back right corner. From where he was laying, if he looked to his right, in that corner was this big armoire, and then moving left from the armoire as he scanned the room, you'd come to the door, which is on the opposite side of where his bed was, and then if he kept scanning left, he would reach the foot of his bed, and just beyond the foot of his bed was a table and a chair. But because he was laying flat, he couldn't really look down and actually see the table and chair. And so with all of his strength, he managed to raise his head just enough that he had a line of sight to that section of his room, the only section he has not looked at yet. and he sees the table and chair, and he sees in the corner is this dark figure that's standing there
No.
looking at him on the ground out of view. And then Nathan's head fell back, and now he knows there's with a shawl covering her face. And before his head fell back to the pillow, he saw her suddenly crouch down on the ground out of view. And then Nathan's head fell back. And now he knows there's just some stranger in his room, and he can't lift his head up anymore, and he's looking around with his eyes. He sees the armoire, he sees the door, he can't see that table and chair, and then he hears the sound of someone slithering along the ground out of view. And he can hear her breathing as she's getting closer and closer.
Sorry if I'm not watching that.
Closer to the edge of the bed. And he's laying there terrified. He's so scared he can't even make a sound. And he in her head. And then she begins to slowly crawl on top of him. And Nathan's sitting here looking at this woman. He wants to close his eyes, but he can't. And he just feels his chest being pressed down. He can hear the sounds of the springs compressing all around him as this woman positions herself on his chest. And then he finally manages to let out a scream, and then suddenly he's awake. The woman's gone. And he sits up and he's looking around. There's nobody in his room. The familiar hum of the light and the crickets and the traffic.
Right there then.
Outside, they all return. And his mom comes running in the room, and she's like, "Hey, are you okay? I heard screaming in here." And he said, "Oh no, I had a bad dream. I'm fine now. I had a terrible dream, but I'm fine now." And his mom's like, "Okay, all right, you need anything?" And he's like, "Nope." So she comes over, she gives him a hug and a kiss. She goes back to bed, and he would go downstairs, flip on a Disney movie, actually Aladdin, and he would fall asleep with a Disney movie on and with lights on. And there was no more sleep paralysis that night. The next day, Nathan got up and he headed back to his house, and he couldn't shake the experience. He had never had sleep paralysis before, but it was just so much more terrifying than he ever would have imagined. And he's just thinking to himself, I can't believe there are people that put up with this on any sort of regular basis. But, after a couple of days and getting home and not experiencing any sleep paralysis, time went on and he just kind of forgot about it. A few months later, in March of 2006, Nathan is at this big family party in Chico, California, big outdoor barbecue, all of his family's there, and at some point his sister shows up. His sister was not supposed to be attending this party, so it was a great surprise. He hasn't seen her in a while, and he immediately pulls her aside to catch up with her. And so for the first hour of their conversation, they're just chatting about their lives and what they're up to. Towards the end of their conversation, Nathan suddenly felt compelled to share his sleep paralysis experience with his sister. And the reason he wanted to was because he knew that she knew that he was actually a skeptic. And so she would believe him. If he's telling her this is what happened, she would believe that that's what he saw. And so he starts by saying, I had the weirdest experience at Mom's apartment just a couple of months ago. I'm pretty sure it was sleep paralysis. And his sister immediately butts in and she goes, wait a minute. I had sleep paralysis for the first time in my life 2 weeks ago at Mom's apartment. It was horrible. I was in the guest room and then I saw this woman and she was like standing on me. I thought I was gonna die. It was horrible. That's exactly what happened to me. I was laying in the guest room and I couldn't move, and then I saw a woman in the corner and she stood on my chest. They proceeded to go over all the details of each of their stories, and they discovered that they had had almost the exact same experience. And at the end of it, they wanted to have a rational explanation for how they both could just somehow have their only sleep paralysis experience in the same room in roughly the same timeline and experience the exact same events. They were trying to, come up with a rational explanation for that, but it was just too much of a coincidence. But ultimately, neither of them were really prepared to start discussing what else it could be. So they decided to just kind of laugh it off and say, man, that's pretty weird, and they moved on. After the party was over, Nathan would go back to his house and he would tell his wife about this crazy coincidence he and his sister had, and his wife would say, yeah, that's wild. But after that, Nathan just did not want to think about it or talk about it, and so he kind of just, pushed it out of his mental space and did forget about it. He moved on. 5 months later, in August of 2006, Nathan's mom would move out of that apartment building and she would move into a 2-story house still in Elk Grove, California. Shortly after she moved in, she asked Nathan if he would come spend a couple nights with her, and Nathan said sure. In order to better understand what happens to Nathan over the course of his stay at his mother's new house, you need to understand a basic layout of her house. So when you walk through her double doors, to your left is going to be a formal living room. In the center of the house is a hallway that shoots straight back to the kitchen, and then to your right when you walk in, there's a wall, and on that wall is the stairs leading up to the second floor. If you take those stairs to the second floor, you reach a landing where there's a window that looks back into the backyard, and immediately to your right, there is a single door, and that's the master bedroom where Nathan's mom would sleep. From the landing, if you turned left, there'd be another door that's a mirror image of the master bedroom door, and this door is the guest room. That's where Nathan was going to stay. And then to the left of the guest room was a hall that went to the front of the house, but that's irrelevant to the story. If you went inside the guest room, the bed was located in the back right corner, so the same layout as the guest room in the apartment building, where the person laying in the bed, so Nathan, his feet would be closest to the door. And from Nathan's perspective in the bed, the only other piece of furniture in this new house guest room was a table that was, from his perspective, on the right-hand wall, centered on the wall, and on the table was a TV. So that's the only things in the room. The first night Nathan was at this new house was totally uneventful. Second night, not so much. He was up in the guest room, laying on the bed, watching TV. The lights are off, it's just the TV on, and at some point, he dozes off. He wakes up a short time later, and he can't move. It's the same sensation he had when he was staying with his mom at her apartment. And he begins to panic because the last time he felt this way, a strange, veiled woman stood on his chest and made it feel like he was dying. And so immediately, he's trying to move his body, he can't, and so using his eyes, he starts looking around the room, praying this woman is not in the room with him. And so he looks to the right, to that corner, which you can see. There's no one there. From this corner, he starts scanning across the room. He sees the TV, it's still on. He keeps scanning, and he sees the door, and it's open. And then he scans, and he's able to just barely make out the space at the foot of the bed. He can actually see to the corner, and this woman, she's not in here. And so initially, he feels incredibly relieved that she's not in the room with him. But then he finds himself focusing on the open door into the dark hallway. And he's thinking to himself, please do not come walking through that door. And so he stares at the open door, just hoping he breaks out of this sleep paralysis, when he notices something about the TV. It's flickering. And so he averts his gaze to the TV, and he realizes what he's looking at on TV does not look familiar. It does not look like a TV show. It looks like CCTV camera footage. Like it looks like a security camera footage. And he realizes the footage he's looking at is the inside of his mother's kitchen downstairs. He recognized the way it was laid out. That's his mother's house. That's downstairs. And he's staring at the footage thinking, why is this footage playing on the TV? And I don't think there's a camera down there. When he notices on the camera, the woman with the veil walks into the middle of the frame. And she looks up at the camera right as the camera turns off. And then the room is completely dark. There's no more ambient light in the room. The hallway is dark. And he's left paralyzed, knowing this woman is downstairs in the kitchen. And as he's laying there, he hears her start running through the house. And it sounds like an animal is barreling into things as she's running through the bottom floor. And she stops at the foot of the stairs. And he's thinking to himself, I know where she's going. She's coming up to my room. And so as he's laying there, he feels his heart racing and he's staring at the open door. He knows she's going to come flying up those stairs and she's going to come through that door. And instead of running up the stairs, he hears her take 1 step, 2 steps. And as she's making her way up the stairs, he's just thinking, please break out of this trance. Stop this paralysis. Wake up, wake up. And then he sees her head emerge and she turns to look at him from the stairs into the room. And once she sees it's him, she bolts around and starts charging into the room on all fours.
Oh, fuck off!
At this point, Nathan lets out a primal scream.
Dude!
He's scared for his life.
Dude, I can't handle that, man! fucking scary. If there's any more of that, I'm unsubscribing. I don't care.
As this woman is charging towards him and she stops dead in her tracks, right in the middle of the room. She looks at him, turns around, and crashes out of the room, charges downstairs, and then it's silent. As soon as she was downstairs, Nathan could sit up. Except it did not feel like the first time he had sleep paralysis at his mom's apartment, when he sat up and he had the sensation of relief. You've woken up. You were asleep before, now you're awake. This time, it was like he was always awake, but now he can sit up. He did not have a sense of relief. In fact, he was worried she was still in the house. And as he's sitting up in bed, his mother comes running into the room. She looks disheveled, she's half asleep, and she's like, was that you? Were you running around the house? I could have sworn I heard someone running around the house. Was that you? Nathan's looking at her and he can't even process what he's been through, whether that was real, whether it was a dream, and he's trying to find the words to describe to his mom the dream he had, but like he can't process what's happening. And he just says, Mom, we have to check the house. We have to make sure no one's in the house. And so the two of them flip on every light upstairs. They're not even talking. At this point, it's survival mode. They turn on all the lights upstairs, and Nathan leads the way down. They're flicking on all the lights, and they manage to search the whole house, and there's no sign of a break-in. There's no one in their house. After the coast was clear, and they felt like they were not in immediate danger, they went into the kitchen to kind of talk about what just happened. And so Nathan's like, okay, Mom, I just got to tell you everything that I'm thinking right now. I can't really process what just happened. I think it was a bad dream, but I'm starting to think that it could be something else, or I'm just losing my mind. So a few months ago, I was sleeping in your guest room in your apartment, and I had an experience that I'm almost positive was sleep paralysis. You know, I was laying there, I couldn't move, and this figure was in the room, and they were standing on me. It was terrifying, but it sounded an awful lot like sleep paralysis. But then a couple months after that, I talked to my sister, and I told her about it, and she told me that very recently, right before you moved into this house actually, she was in that room, and she also had basically the exact same experience. She had never had sleep paralysis before. I had never had sleep paralysis before. So we basically had the exact same horrifying experience in the same room around the same time. And then just now, tonight, I had another sleep paralysis experience with the same woman who was running around the house, and you just said you heard her running around the house. His mom looked really concerned, but she wasn't shocked. She says to Nathan, I have seen this woman. I saw her in my apartment way long time ago, but I remember what you're describing. That's the experience I had. This woman showed up in the room.
Mate, actually, I'm gonna unsubscribe from you now.
And so Nathan and his mom proceeded to spend the next several hours just talking through what this could be. How could they, all three of them, him, his mom, and his sister, how could all of them have had the exact same experience? And how could tonight, when Nathan had this experience, how could his mom have heard those footsteps if that was indeed sleep paralysis? Because it wasn't Nathan, he was in the bedroom. And it wasn't his mom, she was in her bedroom. And she didn't have any pets, so who could it be? Nathan says he and his family are still totally rattled by this experience, and they don't have an answer. And this is a family of skeptics, so they're not looking for a reason to call this paranormal. They simply don't have the answers. Nathan has said that he, his mom, and his sister have not had any further experiences with the woman in black ever since that last experience Nathan had, and they're just hoping it stays that way. So that's going to do it, guys. If you found the secret in today's episode, let us know in the comments what it is and where you found it. Give us the timestamp. If you're the first person to do that, we'll...
Make sure to go subscribe to him. Hey, fuck off. Na 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 na. Hey, fuck off. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's alright. It's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Doom, 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 doom. Doom, doom. Doom, 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 doom. Yo, he's going for my bed, bro. That's not cool, man. You fucking bitch boy. Fuck off, clown. Didn't mean to buy that. How much do we have? 10. Just go away. Go. Just go. Just go. Just go. I'm not gonna let you kill me. Fuck off. Man, I know to fucking speed bridge and all. Oh, what a clutch! What a clutch! Yeah, fucking following me. Hang on, let me check my camera. I want this to be like there. Dun 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 dun. No, I want you to go down there. Close your eyes, shut your mouth, dream and dream, get us out. Dream, 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 dream. Hit the hay, fast asleep, go to sleep, you little bitch. Dream, 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 dream. Walk in. Dude, no. Dude, I mean it, go away. I will shank you if I have to. Dude, you don't want to do this. Dude, you don't want to do this. Oh, you fucked up now, big boy. I said he don't want to do this, but he just challenged me, so... Oh, well, but... I said to him, you don't want to challenge me, but he still challenged me, so... What can I do, eh? What can I do? Dream, 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 dream. Hit the hay, fast asleep, go to sleep, you little bitch. Dream, 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 dream. Wop, bop, 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 bop. Renegade, renegade, renegade. Dude, honestly, fuck off like you angry muffin. Come on in. He's just running my tower. He's not even good, like I'm just destroying him. And I'm not even trying. When will he give up, man? Fucking give up, Jesus Christ. Dude, if you're seriously... Nah, fuck off, dude. Mate, no, it's not gonna happen. I'm just gonna go eliminate him. He's struggling, love him. Wow! He was waiting for me to come over there. Oh my god, this guy will not leave me the fuck alone. Dude, seriously, go away. No one likes you. Come on, man. What is he doing, man? Hey, what the fuck are you doing? Oh, wow. That was a fucking fail. You tried so hard as well. Aww. I feel like kind of a dick now. I'm not just gonna sit there and let him do that, am I? Come on now. Oh, dude, just let me come and kill you for fuck's sake. He's the most annoying Minecraft Bed Wars player I've ever fucking met. Because he's so annoying, bro. Oh, man. I know what he's going to do. He's going to try and knock me off. I'm not stupid. Dude, it's not gonna work, no. Andy fell off again. Is he a fucking melon? I'm just gonna end it for him, I don't care. Come here, you fucking melon! He was so bad as well. How do I fuck... well, no, I didn't die to him. It was a shit bridge I fucking built. Rip Cool, Rip Jack, Rip MCS. I'm good pretend I don't see him. I don't give a shit on him. You could have I ain't worried about that. I just know. Always happens to me like Dude, seriously, like, back off, mate. Dude. Hello? I cannot understand you. What do you say, sir? You're who? Yeah. You do know you're gonna pay for killing MCS.
So you finally saw the tsunami then?
You died!
I was so... I get that weird feeling. Or that... like a fear sort of feeling. Whenever I'm something and hits local so hard, his hand just shatters his chest.
So wait, everyone died. How is...
Everyone died, that's right.
I was about to say. I was about to spoil something massive on my stream. Oops.
But, just a couple of things that I have experienced, which I believe will be. So the prediction falls wrong then. Especially his girlfriend.
Fuck you.
I remember you saying, I remember you saying that Auntie is probably running to someone. And that he was running me. Yeah, that's right. No, you simply just have to work on those as well.
By the way, guys, that's MCS, who created that C6.
And I died.
He died, but how is he talking to me? I don't know.
Because paranormal, spiritual, guidance. I'm a ghost. And I'm very there.
Yeah, I'm talking to a ghost right now, guys. That's pretty poggers, isn't it?
It's absolutely not.
Ah,
Not arguable. Oh, nobody's on Facebook.
That episode was pretty poggers, if I'm going to be honest.
Oh, well, I'm going to have to delete that and redo it then.
I did not expect it to end like that. The evil guys won.
Yep. That is one problem I have with absolutely everything. The fact that the good guys always win. So I simply politely change then the bad guys win. Even though two of them is dead. Jack is dead, and the glitch is dead. And he got away. Oh, maybe. If there's anti got away, perhaps to feel the real thing. Which I am even more excited to do with the moment. Now that SDS is over, I'm a lot more excited.
You wanted to have a conversation with me and Loco?
Yeah.
About what? Wait, am I not allowed to have it on stream, or do I have to... like...
Oh, absolutely not. This is beyond. This is beyond present day information. This is information directly from the future. Information that isn't supposed to be given in person. It's contract.
Love you.
What is it?
Yeah.
Remembered when I killed him with the P90 laser multiple times and then laughed because he was getting his So then he killed me once, and then killed me. Hit that dude off. Yes.
Oh my voice.
None. No, it's not a good idea, is it? For anyone.
And you're dead.
You are
I'm
one
just going to my bed.
Good. All the old one.
I'm good.
One
Touch my
side.
bum. Disconnect. Bye!
He's fucking hacking, man. How the fuck does he do that?
Hackers, auto clickers.
I know.
Naughty hackers. Right. Oh, you got to skip on the screen. Nobody saw that. Nobody saw that, right?
Oh well. Right, guys. I don't know how long I've been live. 2 hours, 21 minutes. Right, guys, that's going to be the end of this live stream. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy, please do go check out Mr. Boring Nuke's Top 5 and also C6 Animations. And without further ado, guys, I have been RWC Hyper.
You guys have been my subscribers.
And I've been MCS for about 2 seconds and I'm a ghost. Good day.
And he's been an MCS, guys. And without further ado, I've been RWC Hyper and you guys have been my subscribers. And until next time, peace.